Hi, I'm Sev. This is my review of the hit TV show Stranger Things, seasons 1, 2, and 3. This is not a review about the plot, and it's not a review about the characters. This is a review of how Stranger Things depicts the paranormal. So I will be talking about secret government paranormal programs, psychic abilities, astral travel, contact with otherworldly beings, and the magical number 11. But before I start the review, I need to tell you very quickly what I do for a living so you will understand why I'm doing this review and why I like the show. For the past 10 years, I have been conducting soul sessions. They are intuitive readings where I can hear, feel, and see interdimensional information about people. You do this too. We all do this. We are all psychic. I have clients around the world and I've conducted thousands of soul sessions. There is nothing special about people who can talk to the dead or who have heightened ESP abilities or who can do astral travel. This is all very normal for us. I'm also an experiencer. I have had ET contact since I was a little girl, but I was keeping it a secret up until just a few months ago because I was very afraid of what people were going to think of me. I was worried that people were going to think I was strange and weird and crazy, and now I don't care. In September of 2017, I came face to face with the Greys, and they burned 2 red X marks onto my back, specifically my butt, and that made me come out. And I wrote a book about it, and shortly after the book came out, I was invited to be a guest speaker at AlienCon in Baltimore in 2018, and that was a lot of fun. And in the past few months since AlienCon, I've done about 20 interviews in the United States, in Canada, and in the UK. So my review is based on personal experience with the paranormal since I was a little girl, and my review is also based on professional experience with the paranormal for the past decade. Okay, enough about me. Now it's time for my review about Stranger Things and how it depicts the paranormal. So this is my review system. 1 third eye is 2 third eyes are pretty good, and 3 third eyes is well done. Okay, the first topic, the secret government paranormal programs. This is really happening, and it's been happening for a long time, not just with the US government, but with other governments around the world, including the Russians and the Chinese. Russia was doing psychic warfare, and America found out about it, and they couldn't have Russia do it and beat them at it. So America started doing their own psychic warfare, and they weren't doing this to benefit mankind. They weren't doing it to really help. They were doing it so they could gather information for nefarious reasons, so they could kill more and cause more destruction and to get greedier and more powerful. So the flashback scenes of Elle in those dark, cold rooms, and she has all that stuff attached to her head, and there's these men in lab coats forcing her to do psychic things is true. However, I don't know if in real life people have electrodes and things stuck to their head. I'm not 100% sure if people are forced into it, and if they don't do it, they're punished. But it wouldn't be surprising, would it? The most popular psychic warfare program, which was a secret until recently, is called the Stargate program. And that was in 1978 it started, and it went on for 20 years in Fort Meade in Maryland. And it was about remote viewing, also known as astral travel, where people were given coordinates, and then these people could, in their mind's eye or in their third eye, travel to the place and report back what they saw. And the reason they were doing this is because they wanted information about where hostages were, where submarines were, where weapons were kept, where there were secret bases, where there were some underground facilities and tunnels where hostile world leaders were hiding. And the first gentleman that was used in this program, his name is Thomas McNear, and he's alive today. Actually, I saw him speak at a symposium in Baltimore a few years ago. He's a retired lieutenant colonel in the Army, and his talk was really interesting. They gave tests to certain people, our military did, and through these tests they could determine if the person had the ability to do remote viewing, and then they trained the person on how to do it. On a side note, at this symposium that I went to where I saw Thomas McNear talk, and by the way, he was considered spectacular at this, and he was successful, and it was a pretty successful program. So they say they stopped it, but I doubt it. Anyway, on a side note, there was also another gentleman talking at this symposium, and his name is Jason Padgett. And a few years ago, he was walking out of a karaoke bar, and he was viciously attacked. And he had a concussion, and his vision changed. And all of a sudden, he could see the energy of everything. Here is a picture of how he sees the hand. Here's one where he sees the energy of the number pi. So it's not just alive things or human things that have energy. Everything has energy, including numbers and letters. You may have seen the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats with George Clooney. That movie was based on these real government paranormal programs, also known as psychic warfare programs. And the title, The Men Who Stare at Goats, comes from what the men were doing. They were staring at these goats to make their heart stop so they would die. And there is a scene in Stranger Things where Elle is all hooked up and there's a cat in a cage, and she's staring at it, and the cat is hissing and meowing, and the men are staring at her. The purpose was to kill the cat, but she couldn't do it. She just couldn't do it. It was too much for her. So she stopped doing it, and then she was penalized. She was thrown in that solitary confinement room. But then she ended up killing a couple of guards or a couple of men. And the leader, the head honcho of all this experimentation, whom she calls Papa, was quite impressed with her ability to kill people. So these programs are not being done to make the world a better place. These programs, these psychic secret government programs that the US and other countries are doing is designed to just create more negativity and more death on this planet. In 1995, the CIA went public and released about 100,000 pages about these secret programs. So our government believes in our psychic powers, and they've spent billions of dollars on our psychic powers. And they wouldn't do that if they didn't think they were real and that it wasn't benefiting them. Why would the government not want us to know? Because it makes us more powerful. Because the more psychic you are, the more you have access to information about yourself and about other people and about what's going on around you that can make you very powerful. So the government doesn't want you to be powerful. The government wants to keep you small. So they know the truth and they don't want us to know the truth. But I'm telling you the truth. So how many third eyes do I give Stranger Things for their depiction of secret paranormal programs? I give them 3 third eyes. I think they do a pretty good job. There could be a little bit of exaggeration in there, but I'm really glad that they're coming out and they're showing that the government and other governments like Russia and China are doing this type of experimentation, and it's not for good reasons. Number 2, psychic abilities. Elle's strongest psychic abilities are remote viewing or astral travel and telekinesis. Telekinesis is when you can move things with your mind. There is something in Stranger Things that I don't care for when it comes to her psychic abilities, and that is when she's doing something really powerful and her brain is really working. Her nose starts to bleed. I guess that's for dramatic effect. Let's keep in mind that these paranormal abilities don't necessarily take place in the physical. We're dealing with processes that happen in the other dimensions. So it's not like when you're really working your brain to move something that you're doing it in 3D. You're not really using your physical body. So it's not like your physical body has to start bleeding profusely through the nose. These are multi-dimensional, interdimensional processes. I wish her nose didn't bleed. There's also a very interesting aspect to heightened psychic abilities. This isn't for everyone. Not everyone who has heightened psychic abilities has had this experience, but many people who do have heightened psychic abilities do have a history of trauma or abuse. And when there's a lot of trauma or a lot of abuse, the brain acts in self-defense. So you have 2 sides to the brain, the right and the left. The right side of your brain is the one that deals with imagination, intuition, psychic abilities, creativity. The left side of the brain, it deals with logic and methodical thinking. So often when you're in a really traumatic situation, the left side of the brain can shut down so you can deal with it, and the right side becomes more active, and that is the side that is involved in psychic abilities. So for that reason, many times people who do have very high levels of psychic ability do have some trauma or drama in their lives, but not everybody. And we can see this with Elle. And it's actually a method that is used on her to cut down the use of the left side of the body, left side of the brain, so the right side of the brain can take over and she can be more psychic. All the kids think that Elle is the only one that has these abilities. I would like to see, maybe in the next season, Elle teach the other kids how to do remote viewing and how to move things with their minds. At the end of season 3, we see that she is losing her psychic abilities. And why is this? Well, she's no longer under trauma. She's being loved and she feels safe and she feels secure. So her left side of the brain isn't shutting down anymore, so the right side of the brain can take over. She's not trying to distance herself from reality or from what's happening to her in order to deal. She wants to be very present in what's happening to her. Some of you may remember in the 70s a man named Uri Geller. I remember him when I was a little girl. He was all over television. And he could move things with his mind. And our US government was very interested in him. They worked with him. And he became a TV star because he had this shtick, if you want to call it a shtick, where he could bend spoons. And I remember my dad played psychic games with me and my sister. I have a younger sister. And I remember one day he said, "Come on, let's bend these spoons together." I bent a spoon. I did this a couple of years ago when I was living on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And I now use it as a paperclip. So how many third eyes do I give Stranger Things for their depiction of psychic abilities? The nosebleed thing bothers me. Because of that, I will give them 2 third eyes. Number 3, astral travel or remote viewing. And I mentioned this earlier when I was telling you about the Stargate program, the super secret government program that our US government had to create psychic warfare. I like very much how Stranger Things portrays astral travel. I have done astral travel many times. I know lots of people who do it. It is not a difficult thing to do. The best way to practice astral travel is through meditation, because you're just really relaxed and your eyes are closed and you have like a movie screen right here, and you can see a lot right there. In fact, a few years ago I was sitting on my couch meditating. I had my eyes closed and this woman appeared and she wanted me to go with her. So I said, okay. And we traveled through this tunnel of light, and it had geometric patterns around it. It was like traveling through a kaleidoscope. So I go through this tunnel and then I come out at the other end, and when I come out, at the top of a hospital room looking down, I'm at the ceiling. And the lady that came and got me gets into the bed and I'm looking down on her, and she's an older woman, and I see my friend, one of my best friends, in the room sitting next to her, and I see her family, and I said to the woman, "Oh, you're my friend's mom." I don't want to say my friend's name. "You're my friend's mom?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Oh, you just died?" And she said, "Yes." I come back, my consciousness is fully on the couch. I open my eyes, and about 10 minutes later, my friend contacts me, and sadly enough, her mom had died about 10 minutes prior. When I was at the top of this hospital room looking down, what did it look like? Well, I saw her mom in the bed, and I saw her family, my friend and her family, and that's about all I saw. I didn't see really what the walls look like. I didn't see the furniture around. It was just very focused and concentrated on that one scene. And Stranger Things is really good at depicting what remote viewing looks like. They portray it against a really black background. The wall is black and the floor is black, but the floor has a little bit of water in it, and you can see the ripples in it, and that represents frequency and energy, and that you're in another dimension. You're in another energy flow, another frequency. And it's just the figures. You really don't see the background, you don't see the walls, you just see the figures right there against this pitch black backdrop. And that is what it looks like. So that is done really well. In fact, that's the best representation of astral travel I have ever seen. So when it comes to astral travel or remote viewing, I give Stranger Things 3 third eyes. It's a job well done. Number 4, contact with otherworldly beings. Why does it have to be a monster that wants to eat you? Okay, it's because it's television. This is my pet peeve when it comes to shows about the paranormal, shows when it comes to ETs and UFOs. It's all about scaring the hell out of you. You can have contact with extraterrestrials and see UFOs without losing your mind and without getting all skinny and starting to shake. You can have communication with otherworldly beings and not get scared and not think that they're going to kill you. So unfortunately, Stranger Things is operating on the premise of fear. Why? Because unfortunately in the United States of America, that is what the viewers like. They like to be scared. I don't understand it. I don't. I don't care for this aspect of the show. At the same time, I understand it's for ratings and fear sells. I mean, you know, one of our biggest shows, it's about zombies that eat brains, and for the life of me, I don't understand. I don't understand that show. My boyfriend likes it. So how can you make contact with otherworldly beings? You can do it through meditation. You can also do it in what we call the dream state, but you're not really dreaming. So a lot goes on when we get into bed and we close our eyes and we go to sleep. You have dreams like normal dreams, but you also travel and you go to other dimensions and you go to other places and you have experiences with beings in these other dimensions. And we haven't really come up with a good word to explain that. That's a real experience. So there are real experiences that you can have at night, and there are just dreams, just regular dreams. I call the real experiences night travels, for lack of a better word, because I can't bring myself to call them dreams because they're real. So there are many ways of having contact with otherworldly beings. Not only through these night travels and through meditation, but when you're completely wide awake. What do you think a prayer is? There's so many people that do not believe that you can make contact with an otherworldly being, but what do you think an angel is? When you say a prayer to an angel, you're talking to an entity that does not live on earth, to an entity that you think has superpowers because it knows everything about you and has the ability to change things around you to make your wishes come true. Is that logical? Absolutely not. But it's socially accepted to tell someone, oh, I just made a prayer to Archangel Michael. And then people are like, oh, that's nice. But then if you say, well, I just had a conversation with an ET, they'd be like, oh my God. So, how many third eyes do I give Stranger Things for how they portray contact with otherworldly beings? 1. I don't really care for it. Unless next season Elle starts to make contact with some loving beings. And then I'll give him 3. But right now, 1. The magical number 11. If you're into numerology, you'll know that 11 is a master number. As I had said earlier, numbers and letters have energy to them, and the energy of 11 is a very high frequency. L is short for 11, and she has the number 11 as her name because it's tattooed on her arm. 0, 1, 1. 0 and 1s are binary code. That's computer language. And 0, 1, 1 also equals the number 3. There's also a very famous inventor, Tesla, and he understood numbers. And he said the numbers 3, 6, and 9 are the magical numbers of the universe. If you're into sacred geometry, you'll have an idea of what I'm talking about. And actually, all of these numbers, and number 3, 6, and 9, and all of that is really fascinating. And you see it repeated a lot in nature. So how many third eyes do I give them for calling the main character 11? I give him 3 third eyes. I think that's a pretty good name. It catches your attention, and it is a powerful number. So that's it for my review of Stranger Things, seasons 1, 2, and 3. I hope you liked it. I enjoyed doing it. I'm going to be doing other reviews too of some other interesting shows that have to do with the paranormal and with UFOs and ETs, and my reviews all come from personal experience. If you're interested in seeing them, they'll be coming out shortly on my YouTube channel, so you can subscribe or you can just check back every now and then. If you've watched this entire video up until this very moment, I am very grateful. Thank you. I will be giving 3 talks on September 28, 2019 in Annapolis, Maryland at The Universe Speaks, Talks to Empower You. And if you can't attend in person, you can attend virtually. Some of the topics include ET contact, the human energy grid, fulfilling your purpose, strengthening your psychic abilities, parallel worlds, and much more. To get your tickets, whether you attend in person or virtually, and to get more information, please go to planetsev.com.